Dr. Mary Bone. So our very own Dr. Mary Bone is up to speak with us next. Welcome, Mary.
Thanks, Martha. All right, so a little bit about myself. I am a former Round Rock ISD trustee. I was on the board from 2020 to 2024, so I got to be there during all the craziness of COVID. It was one of the reasons I ran. I have a PhD in systems engineering. I have a bachelor's in aerospace engineering, so I'm overeducated, some would say. I've become an education advocate. This was not the path that I would have chosen for myself, but it's just the path God has chosen for me. So over the past year, since I came off the board at Round Rock, I've started statewide. I ran for the State Board of Education in 2023, right before I came off the board. I've had a lot of friends. So I ran in 21 counties, 27 counties. It was a lot of counties. I met a lot of people, and I'm just super passionate about education, which we're going to talk about tonight. And I'm glad Troy's here too, because we had a conversation earlier today, and I already knew. We both agree that education, the children are the future of Texas, period, end of story. We both believe that. And then I am the co-founder of this club. Marcia and I put this club together. She didn't mention, but there was just a hole missing in Williamson County. As Anna said, if you're not paying attention, Williamson County is turning blue. It's not purple. We have a lot of Republicans in Williamson County that are not. I won't even call them rhinos. They're Democrats. They're just pure Democrats. And they ran under the Republican tag. We are turning purple, and I don't want our kids to live under that. And I'll show you some slides of why. So tonight I'm going to do a little bit, I call it back to school, legislative update. I was down to Capitol a little bit. I do a lot of my work from home or with organizations that I work with. I did help Governor Abbott's team pass school choice. If you have questions about school choice, you can ask me. I'm a huge advocate for school choice. I sat on the board. I saw parents in front of me crying, wanting their kids to have, go somewhere else. Their kids were in really bad situations in our public schools. And I'll tell you, it's the poor families. It's the families that couldn't come and or couldn't leave our district. We would have families come and they would actually laugh and they would say, we've already left your district, but I'm here to tell you how poor your district is. Those families were able to get away. They had school choice. It was really the families that, maybe they were living with their grandmother, right? The mom was living with her mother. It was those type of families. So anyways, school choice, it does not go into effect until next school year though. If you have family members or yourself, if it's something you want to apply for, you'll start looking for those applications in the spring of 2026 into the summer of 2026 next year. So that should be coming out. Teachers are receiving a pay increase, and that is thanks to the state legislators. Because what I've seen online is all these school districts saying, oh, we're giving the teachers a pay raise. You're being forced to give the teachers a pay raise because of legislation. So one thing you really need to watch if you're watching the news is that the school districts take credit for what the state legislators do that are positive, and then they blame the state legislator for everything else. I'm a very, very factful person. I think you need to put blame where blame is due. But so when you see all these school districts say, oh, they're getting a $5,000 bonus, that is because of the state legislators, which was great. Cell phones have been banned in schools. You'll see this. I'll be straight. I'm not a big proponent of this as a state law. We need to be very careful that we don't become a nanny state. If you go look at places like California, you don't legislate these type of things, in my opinion. This is not what our legislators should be doing. There's lots of unintended consequences. The school districts already have policies. This is now a state law, y'all. I mean, people need to understand state law versus district policy versus local. This is a state law. This is just creating a ton of stress on students. It's creating a ton of stress on teachers. And you're gonna have teachers say, oh no, I love it. I will tell you, lots of times when I hear that, maybe they're in a great school and things are working out great. There are lots of reasons for kids to have cell phones. And again, I knew kids that were 17, 18 that were the head of their household. And they needed their phone. They needed to know when they were going to work. They needed to be able to, little brother, little sister that was their adult in their life. Anyways, it goes into effect. It's a law, but I would encourage you all that we, as Republicans, that we stop and think about the laws that we're passing and not, we need to be passing good laws versus these crazy kind of nanny laws that maybe we don't need. Here's one, prayer time. This is interesting because prayer has always been allowed in school. Like, you can't stop a kid from praying in school, and you can't stop a teacher from praying, before school or after school. But now, school boards are going to be required to vote on allowing a designated time for prayer and Bible reading. So now you're going to get to see your school district. You're going to get to see how they vote. Are they going to vote to actually have a time during the day, a designated time, or not? This also really supports and codifies the fact that students and teachers can pray before and after school. If they can have their Gay Straight Alliance clubs, which actually those have now been banned, but if they can have those before, we obviously can pray before. And I will point out, Mays and Milton is a huge advocate. If I had to pick out one legislator down at the Capitol who is an education child advocate, it's Mays Milton. The prayer time, that was one of his that he pushed. The parent and teacher right bills, there was 2 different bills. There's parents' rights, teachers' rights bills. Again, lots of these things, I think they're interesting. I'm not for sure they needed to be laws because they were lots of the things that they passed were already laws. They were just kind of strengthening them and saying, hey, we believe in these things. But it's something that's passed to be aware of. The parents, I think it's in the parents' bill though, there are some things that it did, like the Gay Straight Alliance clubs are no longer allowed in schools. So those should all be going away. So I would encourage you guys, if you're in the schools, or go volunteer to school, and if you see the GSA clubs, those type of things should now be out of our schools. DEI was banned. When I ran for SBOE, again, legislators like to play lots of word games. It's very frustrating. We're seeing this right now with, this whole forum break. It's a lot of theater down there at the Capitol. And a couple of years ago, they banned DEI. And when I would go around, everybody thought DEI was banned, K through 12, and in universities, they thought it was all banned. This is one thing that I've been fighting for. I'm very thankful for this because I fought hard to get DEI banned in K through 12. Because I was educating everybody I met. Because they could not believe. I was like, DEI is still banned. And, Brian Harrison, I'll give him credit, he brought a lot of exposure to that DEI was not banned in K through 12. And in it was banned at the universities and they still weren't following it. But now it is fully banned. So if you see DEI, in your schools, or again, if you don't have kids in schools, talk to your kids if they're in Texas. Talk to your grandkids. And report this stuff. I will tell you, grandparents have a lot of ability that parents don't have. Because for one, you might be able to advocate for your grandchild and not tell them who your grandchild is. You can just show up and not, especially if you don't share your last name, because maybe you had a girl that took, the husband's name. There's a lot of fear from parents to go advocate for their kids because of retaliation. But these are things you can look for. School district can now be held liable for sexual misconduct. This is a big one, which I think lots of people are surprised about, that it's kind of a nuanced legal thing. School districts can't be held liable unless you basically ran somebody over with a lawnmower or a vehicle. Those are basically the 2 things that a school district, if they did to you, that you can hold them liable for. Everything else, most people don't realize that, but if you think about it, how do they have football, right? You hear about all these things that happen in football or in the classroom. School districts could not be held liable if they knew there was a sexual offender and they kept that person in the classroom. There was really no way legally to hold them liable. Now there is. And that was done by a guy named Mitch Little. I really give him kudos on pushing that and fighting for that. And we'll talk a little bit more about the sexual misconduct issues in school. Another big one is the 10 Commandments. Hey, Tori, did those get brought in? I'll bring in the 10 Commandments. This is something you all can do. You all can go on. We should post the link, but you can go to a website and you can actually donate 10 Commandments for classrooms. And you can pick the school. It's $30 per, I think it's $30 per school. So if you want to do an elementary school, it's $30. And the 10 Commandments are going to be displayed in every classroom in Texas when they're donated. So that is very exciting. And you might ask, and just so people know, the way they do that is it does not have the verse on there. So I believe rights and commands in Deuteronomy, or I'm taking over my pastor here, friend. So it doesn't say Deuteronomy on it. And just so you know, you can also tell your teacher friends, or if you know teachers, they can actually put scripture in their rooms. They just can't say Matthew, 5:12, or Luke 16:17, or whatever. So you can have scripture on your walls, and that's the Ten Commandments are going to be able to be displayed. Special session, what's coming up is they are making changes to STAR, and what you're going to hear them say, again, we need to be very, we have a real problem with honesty in politics, and they're dishonest, but Tori brought in the Ten Commandments, that's what they can look like, that's one sample. But the STAR, you're going to hear them say, we're going to end the STAR, they're not ending the STAR. They are calling it something different, and I watched the, thank you very much. Yeah, so you can see, this is, by the way, it's a specific law, it has to be these exact words, so you can't just go print out any Ten Commandments. It has to be these exact words, there can't be any other content, so you can't have anybody else's name, like I can't say donated by Mary Bone or anything like that.
Has to be that size.
It has to be 16 by 19.
And framed. What'd you say to get those, Mary?
It's on the website.
Patriot Mobile also is doing that.
Yeah, well, it's Patriot Mobile is the web. There's a website. There's a bunch of people got together and created one website, so you can go to. I don't have it with me right now. Maybe we'll
We can post it on our Facebook group page.
Yeah,
So everybody can go there.
yeah. We'll definitely post it. Sorry, I didn't put it up here. I should have taken note of this. So going back to STAR, they're saying that they're ending STAR. They're not ending STAR. I listened to the legislators the other day. I listened to Mike Morath, who's the commissioner, talk about what they're wanting to do. They're not ending STAR. They're changing it. Now they're wanting to do beginning of year, a middle of year, and end of year. If you're in school, you know what those are. They're called Boy, Moy, and Oi. And they're wanting to take those now and try to roll them into STAR. Please, if you know teachers, this is not, in my opinion, you can go watch it. Mike Morath, they really didn't know how they were going to implement it, etc. I don't see this as a positive. I like things, if they're going to make a new law, they should know how it's going to be implemented before they vote on it. This is basically like 3 mini stars, is what it sounded like. And they didn't know how they were going to score them, they didn't know how to age it, because they're still going to be A through F. So there's going to be accountability scores. And it's going to cost the taxpayer almost $60 million in the next 2 years to implement this. And by the way, education has been hijacked by these vendors, and right there's the key. Somebody's wanting $60 million, they're going to sell it to everybody as we're ending STAR test. It's not a positive, they need to do better for our kids. Ending taxpayer-funded lobbying, this is in special session, you might wonder why it's under education. Texas Association of School Boards is the largest taxpayer-funded lobbying group in Texas. Taxpayer-funded lobbying needs to end. It is, again, another way that education in Texas has been hijacked through the Texas Association of School Boards, who actually work very closely with the Texas Association of Administrators. Texas Association of School Administrators. So TASA, TASB. And last session, I will tell you, because Senator Shorter, he was one of the senators that voted the wrong way last time. He let an amendment go through this in regular session. He voted on an amendment, and then he said, "Oh, silly, I didn't know what I was voting on." Yeah, come on, let's be smart, y'all. I think he knew what he was voting on. This time, because it's in special session, and again, Megan Middleton has been pushing this ever since he got into the Senate. And I think it's going to pass. Obviously, we can't pass anything right now with the House. It actually did pass the Senate, so it's actually going into the House.
And our own Larry Gaddis and his staff.
Oh yeah, so we had Larry Gaddis from Williamson County, who if you're in Williamson County, you're paying for him. And this was, I believe, during a weekday, so on your dime. They testified against it, him and a person in his office. So there was 2 people from the Williamson County, and again, that would be your commissioner, complain to your commissioner. And then there was a lady from the city of Georgetown, who used to be Shortner's chief of staff, just by chance. She also went and was against taxpayer-funded lobbying.
In support of keeping taxes.
In support. Yeah, and I will tell you, I mean, again, I'm probably being a little cynical, and I'm probably not representing it the way they would, but if you listen to everybody that's for taxpayer-funded lobbying, it's just, and I'm saying this, if you don't know my background, I'm a rural kid. I came from a very poor rural background, grew up in a town of like 300. But they kind of say, well, you know, those small town people aren't smart enough, or they don't know how to get to Austin, or they don't know how to communicate with their senators or representatives, so we need organizations to do it for them. So, you know, it's this whole diverting that, you know, oh, it's the rural people, they're just not able to advocate for themselves, so they need these organizations. And I can tell you, those organizations are not advocating for those rural people, and I'll show you later a TASB lobbyist and how he was advocating. The other big one is protecting women's private spaces. This is a bill that's going, that's in special session, that's very important. If you do not know, in Texas, men, right? Because when you get to high school, a 17-year-old boy is a man. They can be in girls' private spaces in the high schools, and it does happen. It happened when I was on the board. It happens. And the girls were taken by surprise. It was obviously very traumatic for, you know, I think there were 16-year-olds, there was other ages, but 2 16-year-olds actually spoke up. It was hugely traumatic, and if you do not understand what's happening in our schools, these kids cannot speak up. They're called homophobic, xenophobic, I don't know. I don't even know what some of these phobics are, but they're called every phobia in the name, and they were chastised by their peers if they speak out. So it is our job as adults, we need to protect our women and tell these schools, no biological men in girls' bathrooms, period, end of story, and vice versa. I mean, you know, I have 5 nephews, there should not be women going to dress with men also. But I will tell you, it is kind of weird, we don't see that as much. I wonder why. Why is it that there's not a lot of women when we dress with the men? I don't know. So weird. Back to school, state of education update. If you haven't been following the STAR test results, they had really not been released for 5 years as a whole. We didn't have like all the data and everything with it. So they are finally being released. The last set of data is supposed to be released soon, and then we'll finally have the most current STAR test results so you can actually see how your schools are doing. And then I will tell you, there is a pedophile epidemic that is in Texas, and honestly, this is a nation issue, and we should be disgusted. And honestly, as an adult, we should be horrified that this is happening. I mean, this all goes with the whole, you know, what do they call it, child sex trafficking. This is all of it, and it's happening in our schools. If you're not watching, there's literally 1 or 2 a day. There's a lady named Erin Anderson for Texas Scorecard. She's made it her mission that she captures these from across the state. We all share them with her so that she captures them. Because there's news stories every day, and these are just the ones being caught. There was an Austin ISD teacher that was just sentenced, I believe, to 71 years. 71 years in jail, because that's the amount of offenses that he did. These are, and there's women showing up, there's women now showing up to testify that have been traumatized. I mean, you know, 20-year-old, 30-year-old women. We've got to stop this. It's our job.
How is not considered part of DEI?
Diversity, equity, inclusion, the sex stuff. And
How is that not fall underneath that umbrella?
and it's very separate. I mean, diversity, right? I mean, diversity, equity, inclusion is almost all to do with race. It's all the race, everybody treated equally. So yeah, the sex is a whole separate issue. Yeah. And if you want to go read this report from Texas Ed 911, they had 6,888 reports of sexual and violent misconduct by taxpayer-funded employees perpetrated on students in Texas schools from September 2021 to July 2024. And there's another website that I can share with you. If you have grandkids in Texas, you can go look at their school district, and you can see if possibly their teacher was one of these people that was reported. And the sad thing about this is very few of these people were actually investigated by the Texas Education Agency. Adults knew about these.
Just the ones that got caught.
Well, no, these were reported,
Reported.
and nothing happened. Most majority, I mean, way over a majority. It was a very small number of these were actually investigated. Many of these teachers are still possibly in the classroom. If you aren't following, the guy that, the teacher that killed two parents up in Arkansas. That was a huge national story. He was actually a teacher in Texas. He was a teacher in Oklahoma. We have a problem in it. I'm just trying to get you guys to understand there's a problem in education that's more systemic than just education. We have a lot of pedophiles now that are attracted because there's no law and order in our schools.
Is that the website, Mary, to follow to check?
No, the website to check, I actually kind of forgot about it, so I was just talking to you all. It's a different website. So I should post that too. We can send it out. We have your emails. We should have your emails. Or if we don't, you're interested, make sure Jennifer has your email. And we'll send you guys specifically the emails that are the addresses.
Texas Scorecard also has a website that tracks where there's been reporting in the schools. I don't know if it goes down to the teacher, I don't remember.
Yeah, so Texas Scorecard only has the ones. So Texas Scorecard will only post the ones that have been, arrested.
Convicted.
So the other website,
Arrested, not convicted, just arrested.
just arrested. Once they're arrested, they can post it. But the other website, somebody in TEA actually leaked the 6,888 employees that had been reported. And then somebody took that and put it by school district so you can go search it. And it's openrecords.com, I think is what the address was. I'll have to double check that. But you can actually go, and actually in Round Rock, there's quite a few. Leander, there's quite a few. So there's actually quite a few, and you can go see, it tells you the level of the report that was made. I mean, some of it's assault, so some of it is physical assault, like they hit a kid, or allegedly hit a kid. Some of it's sexual misconduct that's ever been. And then I always have to say, I mean, if you don't know, our superintendent in Round Rock has a permanent restraining order for family violence against his pregnant mistress, who we got pregnant.
Russell Fish, OpenRecordsProject.com.
OpenRecordsProject.com. Yep, Russell Fish is a good guy. Transgender and drag queen teachers are still a thing in Texas public schools. I think you and I both, even though we have various ages in here, none of us could imagine, other than Tori, who's my daughter in the back, she can imagine because she has to live it. But we have transgender teachers and drag queen teachers that we allow to roam and go teach in our schools. And obviously that's probably pretty confusing for our children. The State Board of Education recently passed an ethnic studies course with only a few Republicans voted for it, but a majority, all the Democrats did. And this was an Indian ethnic studies. It taught things like George Washington as a terrorist. It taught things, or it had material attached to it, I should say. So there was material attached to this curriculum, these standards. It also said that Indians believed in multiple sexes because they believe in like animal spirits. I was just talking to a Native American. They were highly offended, and they were correcting the record, and they agreed with me that their tribe did not believe that. That was their stance. So again, 4 Republican State Board of Education members voted with the Democrats. We've got to get this fixed. So I'm going to now show you, these are some, if you are on Facebook or Twitter, or X, whatever you call it, because I'm old and it was Twitter like 6 seconds ago. But these are some Facebook posts. I post about things mostly, mostly all in Texas, but some national. But this was a drag queen from actually Georgetown. So this guy had taught in Georgetown, in the Georgetown Middle School for, I think he was there 2 or 3 years. His drag name is FF Firestone, and he posted earlier this year, this summer, he was leaving Georgetown, to go to Pflugerville. We do have a gentleman that has tried to hunt that down, and Pflugerville is denying that they have contracted with him, so I don't know what happened. But this is him in drag. So, he's Mother Mary, he's Jesus. This is him. These are all of his pictures. I will tell you the thing is that, I don't know, maybe we didn't have drag queens back in the day when I was at school, but I never knew. These are public. These were public pictures. His students could have seen these. This was not some kind of private life that he was trying to keep private. This was his public life. And if you go read, these are activist teachers in my opinion. He was saying, like, I want to be, I like this stuff. I think this is the way it should be.
You know what? In Leander, so we have
research place to award my top level students in math. It was like no space, but we have like for drag queen.
Yeah, the social issues have overtaken the education issues. People don't value, they value, and this is really, and I'm going to harp on, we're mostly, we are a Republican club. Our values, faith, family, that should be our values, right? Taking care of our children. The left believe it, and they're going to ingrain it. They think they have spaces for their drag queens. The Republicans, we have set for too long. We don't want to be called bigots. We don't want to be called racist. We don't want to be called homophobic. If you have a problem being called a name in here, I just ask you to really pray on that, because you know what? Jesus doesn't care. God doesn't care. I can tell you, if you go look, I have a whole webpage dedicated to that I'm the worst trustee ever in Round Rock ISD. They have ugly pictures of me. I'm also a professor. My students actually see that when they go Google my name. It actually is like the 5th picture that comes up. And you know what? I don't care. And you know what? It hasn't hindered me one bit. Because God, I mean, I'm just walking the path. You know, when I was a teenager, they called it the pipeline ride. I'm surfing and I'm in the pipe. And you know what? God is covering me, He's around me, and He's just taking me on the journey, and it's called faith, y'all. And the Republicans, we've lost our faith in God. We talk about it, but we don't do it. So, you know, you really need to take it to heart. If you won't talk about these issues, the left will. And the left will have, they'll have their drag queen spaces, and they'll have their pride spaces. And our God and our children, they won't have the freedoms that we had. I guarantee it. I mean, this is happening right here, Georgetown. And Georgetown, Texas, they knew they had this guy. The story goes he was actually put on administrative leave at the end of the last school year in Georgetown because a parent who also happened to possibly be, you know, an employee of the district told on him for some things that he was doing. There were things where I've seen that report. It's just a report. I don't know if it's factual, right? I can't say if it's factual, but the report indicated that he had, what did he call them? They called them some kind of circle where they were like rubbing each other's shoulders and doing things like that. And this was middle school theater. So, and obviously the kids were not comfortable with that. Okay, so Round Rock ISD celebrates sexualization of children in 2025. This was, we actually had a training here that morning, so I couldn't actually go. I was here helping. But you have 2 ISD trustees right here. Round Rock ISD is a 7-0 fully led board, woke Dems. And this is what they were protecting. You can see the drag queen, you can see the kids dancing. Here's your Round Rock ISD police. I mean, why are police getting involved in social issues of this nature where they're very divisive? You can see the drag queen up here, and if you can't see, if you can see my little pointer, these are children. There's just children everywhere.
Putting dollar bills in those drag queens'
Yes.
clothing.
And they are putting money in the drag queen's clothing. Round Rock, Texas. And they had Kids Corner. And that was, by the way, just so you guys know, these were supported by things like Round Rock ISD, Williamson County,
Craig
and
Morgan.
cities, health district.
Craig Morgan, the
So,
mayor.
your text, yes. If you're in Round Rock, the mayor of Round Rock, Austin Community College. But go look at your tax bills, because if you're in Williamson or Travis County, you pay for ACC. Your tax dollars are going to this. You pay for Williamson County and City's Health District. That's our health department. You pay for that. Round Rock ISD, you pay for that. Your tax dollars are going to this. Round Rock City, if you're in Round Rock, they gave a, I haven't figured out how much it was, but they gave them a cultural, like you were talking about, they gave them a cultural grant for this.
And Craig Morgan says it's a huge moneymaker every year in Round Rock. Why wouldn't we want to do it?
Yeah, you really, we have to get the word out because she's a really great supporter of mine. She was a great supporter when I was on the board. 2 years, in 2024, I think it was 2024, when the Pride stuff happened, it was pretty much the same. She was like, Craig Morgan's got to be a great Republican. I'm going to go talk to him because I know he's got to be a great Republican. And it's just, you know, they make people believe believe people like me and Marsha are like these crazy or we're extremely right-wing. I've never been called extremely right-wing other than by the crazy left woke. So she went and talked to Craig Morgan, and that's what he told her, that's where Marsha's getting that. That is first-hand knowledge from our friend who went to talk to him, and Craig Morgan said, I'm for the pride, because it brings a lot of money to the district. And this year, there's actually a video clip, I flipped it. He's actually on stage with Busey, who is a hard left Democrat. He's on stage with Busey, and they're kind of poking fun at the Republican governor and legislators.
But
And-
other Republicans don't want to have him replaced. Don't rock the boat and have Craig Morgan replaced, because you'll get
Yeah,
worse.
if you want to know what's going on in our county and our cities, I'll be straight with you. And again, I'm just a very honest person. I have a PhD, which means I just observe things, I do research. We are being sold out. Craig Morgan makes money from the city. It's all favors, deals. Craig Morgan, he actually had some things filed against him. And here's the thing, is it illegal? They've said no. All these things that these people do, but would you and I say that it's ethical, or would you and I say that this is not correct? I know I would. So we have to realize not everything's illegal, right? Not everything's illegal. But is it ethical? Is it and these people will take it right to the edge, right? Like they figure out a way, like they give their second cousin a good deal or a good job.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, maybe they take a family vacation, I don't know what they do. It's hard, you can't follow the money. But they do things, it's a buddy system. And they're all getting rich while we're paying outrageous taxes.
And no one asked them why we celebrate those, like here in Texas. So my little one, last year was in C.C. Mason, we removed him, because 1 month they celebrate in elementary school Pride. We're supposed to wear like Pride colors, t-shirts every day. And I came and I started to fight with them. And they just like this,
Yeah.
like whoa.
Not big.
Well, and going back to what the city said, there's money in this. And there's a lot of money in the pride stuff, there's a lot of connections, and then also, there's just the other side of it, the ideology side.
And administration can answer my question. I asked why we celebrate these like stupid things in elementary school for 1 month. Why we never
Yeah.
celebrate normal holidays?
Yeah, like Christmas.
Like
Yeah, diversity, equity, inclusion, it is the guy.
You don't see the National Day of Prayer celebrated from it.
So this is another one, this is actually in my daughter's high school, and this is why my youngest does not go to my local public high school. One of the many reasons. But we have Mr. Andrew in 2023. These pictures, by the way, this is from my own child's yearbook. So these are pictures of, that my child's yearbook has. He was Mr. Andrew one year, he was Miss Alyssa the next. This is Round Rock ISD, it's Cedar Ridge High School. It's where my kids would go. And I will tell you, we talked to a lot of parents. Nobody knows how to deal with this, right? Because for one thing, do I love this person? As a Christian, I do love this person. I want them to know God. I want their soul to be saved. Do I love their soul? Yes. Do I want to call out their actions, and do I not want them around my child? Yes. They just don't need to be around my child, right? They don't need to be with children. Go to an adult job. But these people are choosing to be around kids. And again, this is happening all across Texas. Governor Abbott there's been some of them that have been very bold. There was one in North Texas that was very bold, and he got on and was like, oh, I'm just, I love, basically kind of indoctrinating my students. And then I believe it was Abbott or Dan Patrick, one of them had to retweet it, and then the guy resigned. And so these people, they're all over. And I will tell you, if you're like, oh, my grandkid or my kid would tell me if they had a transgender teacher, I am here to tell you, you can believe me or not, most of them will not. They are being indoctrinated. That's why we call indoctrination. They're being indoctrinated to believe that this is normal. The other thing is they do not want you going up there and making a big deal about this, because they will literally have to leave their high school, because they're going to be chastised by other teachers, they're going to be chastised by other students and pushed out. That's where we're at.
Just so you know, so this specific teacher, when we researched him, the school district is paying him as Mr. Andrew Lambert on the books. That's how they pay him. This TEA has his certificate as Mr. Andrew Lambert. So he goes by, all official wise, as Mr. Lambert. But in school, the kids, the yearbook, he dresses as this. He goes by Alyssa Lambert. So kids have to call him Miss, Mrs., etc. And there are other teachers in like the middle school that go by Nix, which is a combination of Mr. and Mrs. So kids will not tell you. You have to be more aware of what's going on. And just so you know, like Nix is a big one, and then having mentally ill men like this. I will say,
At one time, Cedar Ridge had 3
yes.
transgender teachers. And I will tell you, my oldest daughter did not ever tell me. And I asked her, and she kind of said she didn't know, but they really just don't want you making a big deal about it, because if you all remember high school, you just want to fit in, you just want to have friends, you want to go have a good time, you want to go to school, it's already horrible enough. And the last thing you want to do is cause a big social rise up. So
one of the things too that you can do it actively is if you have children in school at any level or grandparent of grandchildren in schools, go to meet the parent night, meet the teacher nights, because you go in and you see who this teacher is. Because he has an Adam's apple on the bottom photo, the female looking photo, you can see it. But I will be honest, this was my daughter's teacher last year. I took that photo. It was parent night where you go meet the teacher. And Mary's laughing because she knows what I'm going to say. So I covertly took the photo because I can take and be like, smile, I'm taking a photo of you so I remember you. But I asked questions. I said, listen, we're not going to, I'm like, my name is Jennifer, you have my daughter, etc. He was very pleasant, very demure. I acted, act as feminine as possible. But here's the questions I asked. So we're not going to see eye to eye ideology, politically, probably a lot of things. But I need to know, this was AP history. I said, I need to know that you are not going to deviate from this curriculum. You are going to stay on point, and I don't need your ideology and your opinions brought into U.S. history. Absolutely, you went on and on and on. And I asked the next question. I said, this is going to be an uncomfortable question. I'm going to ask it because I know I have to. I have a female daughter. I said, there's bathrooms outside on this portable. Which bathrooms do you use? I didn't flinch, I didn't blink, and I didn't look away. He was very uncomfortable. But I have a right to ask this teacher who dresses like a woman where he's going to go to the bathroom, because one of the other 3 teachers that had been in the same school was caught by another teacher, by another individual going into the bathroom, which the school's denied. But they are going into the girls' bathrooms. Thank God there's a law now, but I'm just, somewhat. Almost a law. But I'm just saying, go to the schools. If your kids can't, and you're a grandparent, go on their behalf. See what's going on.
actually, I would encourage you, all of you.
All of you.
I can't tell you how much power you have if you actually don't have a child in school, but if you can find out, like when the open house night is of your local high school or elementary, and just go up and wander around. These are buildings, I mean, I don't know where you guys all grew up or where I grew up, like, there was all kinds of people in my schools, right? Like, schools used to be very open, so the community all saw what was going on. I mean, there would be people that didn't have kids there, but they'd come help or do whatever. It's good for people to get in those public buildings, right? I mean, there's no reason that you can't go in and just look around. Like, see what's in these schools. Go to the libraries and see for yourself, because Jennifer is right. This is happening, and we do need help, because this guy taught about 100 students last year or more. 100 students. And he taught AP history at a 6A high school, and he was the only AP teacher for history. And so I had another friend that was pretty mortified by this. Her son was so if you can imagine a 16, 17-year-old boy having this as their teacher, I just couldn't even imagine what those 16, 17-year-old boys were thinking, because I wasn't a boy. But I could imagine from my friends what they were thinking, and she tried to get her son out of this class, and she couldn't, because it would take him off of, like, he's in the top 10 of his class, and if you don't take AP history, then it would send him on a different path. So you might just think, people are like, oh, it's easy, I move my kid out of that class. It's not that easy. We're talking about, these are life-changing decisions for these children. So
There's
another one in Pflugerville, I don't know, I don't think it's one previously, but another one that, a friend of my daughter's, she has to be the aide to work with this person.
And it's transgender.
Yeah, she's not sure she can do it, she can handle it.
Yeah.
Somebody already
And
quit.
that is the other thing, I mean, we're forcing, this is just, it's ridiculous. And look at this, they're all over. These are what your kids and grandkids are being exposed to. I can't stress it enough. It's very harmful because it normalizes them. And it normalizes that this is normal, and it's not normal for a man who dresses a woman and says teach little children anything.
Mental illness, plain and
It has
simple.
been for many, many years.
Was he qualified actually to teach that class?
Yes. He had been teaching that class. Here's the thing, y'all, he was a wonderful teacher. I mean, that's from everybody we heard. He was a wonderful teacher. Yeah, before, well, actually,
He taught my daughter in 9th grade as Mr. Lambert. So I knew of him. My daughter's like, oh, I have, you know, the same teacher. And my daughter does not see eye to eye with me on a lot of things. She did not tell me that she eventually told me because she saw him in the hallways the year before and said, oh, I figured, she goes, oh my gosh, Mr. Lambert now goes by Miss Lambert. And I said, what? She goes, I had a thought, I figured something because he was very flamboyant. He had that, you know, that air about him. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So then when I realized she was going to have him as the teacher for this last year, I was mortified. Again, I couldn't take her out because it was an AP class.
You know, Jennifer is, by the way, Jennifer's the only parent, and I will harp on Christians a little bit, because I was hoping my church, there was many people in my church that had this person as a teacher. I was hoping maybe they would go talk. People will not say anything about this.
But he knows who I was, though. He knew I was like, stay on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that this guy is a bad teacher or that this guy is a bad person. As adults, we know that a person does not need to be cross-dressing as a drag queen or as, yes, in front of kids, teaching them at the school. And then Jennifer did bring up, and just so you know, we did have an issue at Cedar Ridge High School where another teacher who she actually, I was told this personally from the teacher that saw, the first eyewitness, to see another transgender teacher actually use the student bathroom. So that was a big issue. And then, of course, the school was like, oh, we don't have any video. I don't know, just we didn't see anything.
Baloney, those schools are filled with cameras.
Yeah, they are. I'm going to move on because Marcia's going to give a 2-minute warning. Texas Education Agency. So if pro-life in here, if you're pro-life, the curriculum that was approved by the State Board of Education has life beginning at birth, and it also has pregnant person. And this is the Goodhart Wilcox text. This is the Texas Education Agency spent almost $2 million on this curriculum, and it has life begins at birth. We are being played, y'all. That's the only way I can say it. We are being played. They are passing laws that are pro-life. They are teaching our kids that life begins at birth. We're being played. That's all I can say. And these are facts. People will tell you that it's not. This is absolute fact. Julie Pickren, she's a State Board of Education member. She's a very, she's a Christian lady. She has confirmed this. It is true. It's absolutely, I've seen it with my own eyes. I can give you the website again. It's fact. Just Round Rock ISD, you see CACRC practices in hiring. If you're watching what's going on in schools, this is where Round Rock ISD is. This was before our current superintendent. You will see this was the Cedar Ridge principal. We have been through 2 principals, and they were both hired. This was the principal of Round Rock. This is the new hire. Stony Point has stayed the same, surprisingly. And this was the Westwood principal. Westwood is our highest economic high school. It is also a high school that probably would not tolerate certain skin color, which is kind of sad to say, but so that person was replaced. And then McNeil High School was replaced. And then our CFO was replaced. And this is our chief of schools was replaced. I want to be very clear. I'm not saying these people are not qualified. I'm saying the probability of this happening and this transition, the probability is astronomical that this would not happen, especially where you have 2 principals. And I will and I would go to court and say the superintendent was a DEI hire. I sat in the room when he was hired, and they specifically said, we have the scoring sheets. We had scoring sheets, right? If you've ever done interviews, we had a matrix, and where you give people, numbers or plus or minus. The current superintendent was nowhere close to the other person. The other person's skin color was not the right color. And when our new superintendent was hired, I don't think I put him on here. He is North African. He says that he is white, but if you go back, we had trustees saying that he was an African American. But they also said that he was black, and he self-identifies on paperwork as white. But there's some problems in our schools, and this is happening all over. Leander, I believe you're superintendent from South Africa.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, like, yeah, well,
It's not even sorry.
yeah, just thinking. Anyways, what's going on at these schools? And then TASB, taxpayer-funded lobbyists. Again, I told you that this needs to go away. This guy right here is a TASB lobbyist. This is his drag queen son. And his drag queen son did an article, and he said, while we were filming in LA, my father, who is a lobbyist in the state of Texas and works in the Texas political sphere, was lobbying against the Senate bill to outlaw drag in the state of Texas.
God help us.
This guy is paid by TASB. Your money goes from your school district to TASB to people like this who are not watched, they're not held accountable on what they're lobbying for, and you have this guy's son saying that he's lobbying. This guy, if you go look, I forget it's Ratcliffe, I believe. You should do a deep dive into this guy. His last name is Ratcliffe. He was an SBOE member. His father, I think, was a House member, or no, his father was a Dan Patrick, so Lieutenant Governor, I believe, or something like that. Very politically connected family. These people are, I believe, they're listed as Republicans. But this is what they're advocating for on your dollar. All right, last slide. Yep, then we'll get to Mr. Jackson, Pastor Jackson. This is the state of education in Texas. And this slide, I left this at the end because I really need you guys to absorb this. If you take away one slide, this is it. That is spending. The green line and the grayish line at the top, it's spending, and then that's inflation. So that's telling you spending on education is beating inflation. So that's going to be the number one lie that you hear from school districts is, oh, they don't give us any money. Yes, they do. You guys are spending money on public education. These are your test scores. This is the National Assessment of Education Progress Scores, and this is math and reading. 2016 is right here. 2016. I'm an engineer, so I like graphs. What happens in 2016? What happens to that line? Does it become flatter? Does it become... It kind of skyrockets, doesn't it? You know what happened in 2016? Mike Rath became commissioner. Mike Rath is appointed by Greg Abbott. He's appointed by Greg Abbott. Would you hire him? Would you keep him hired? And again, I will tell you, I've met Mike Rath. He is a nice guy. He goes to church with some friends of mine, a very nice guy. They're very nice people, but they're not doing their job. And our children are being hurt. They're allowing, Mike Rath has a lot of power in allowing all those drag queens and transgender teachers. And then, if nothing else, he obviously has a ton of control over education. He is the guy. He's the commissioner of education. And this is his report card. They just keep giving him, by the way, they gave public schools have $8.5 billion more dollars this year. $8.5 billion more. School choice got $1 billion. So just take this to heart. And I know Pastor Jackson, I think, is going to kind of continue the topic and talk about kind of at the national level, but we need, I know there's just a few of us in here, but my goal tonight was kind of get you guys rallied up to understand what's really going on and why people like me have left pretty much my job. Like I was doing consulting with NASA, I kind of laid down on my job to fight for the future of Texas. And if you say you're fighting for the future of Texas, or if you talk to anybody that is, if they're not fighting for the children, you're not fighting for the future of Texas. You're just fighting for somebody's pocketbook or some, I don't know. The border doesn't matter. I mean, Patrick Jackson and I talked about this. If in 10 years, we have kids that are 8 in 10 years are going to be voting. So they'll be 18. And if they're going to vote for people like the mayor of New York that's got ready to get voted in, I don't even remember his name. Udami.
Oh my God.
That's what our kids are being trained to do. Your grandkids are being trained to do that. We've got to fight back. We've got to be uncomfortable. And we just have to do, I mean, all I'm asking us to do is what God would do. And God would not be pushed out of our schools. God would not be pushed out of our children and grandchildren's lives. And that's what's happening. When people call you homophobic, I'm not homophobic. I've had plenty of friends that are homosexual. I love them. I have no problem with them. If they want to indoctrinate my children and tell my children how great their lifestyle is, nope. Just like I'm not going to have, my friend's husband tell me how great his affair is, right? Like, I'm not going to live in that sin. And we should not allow that to happen in our children's schools. They're not even adults. As adults, we can process sin versus, kind of right and wrong and all the gray, weird in between. Children can't. So I know I'm taking a little bit of Troy's time, but I just really am passionate about this. My family's given up a lot, and I just want to encourage you guys to take action. A little bit can go a long way. Marsha's down at the Capitol fighting. It takes a lot of us. But I'll tell you, like Senator Schwerter, like Greg Abbott, these people, they don't listen until you get a lot of people rallied up. And then they have to make us happy somehow. And really how politics work is like who gets most rallied up and pushes back. And right now, the Dems have done a great job of that in education. There's a Democrat that does a great job of that in education with Commissioner Morath, and there's a lot of changes made. So we just need people on our side. So, I don't know what connections you guys have, but, I also believe in prayer. So if you could just pray for our kids and for everybody fighting, and that God, come back into our schools. Where do you belong? So, all right, any last questions? And then I'll hand it over to Troy. Actually, I'll introduce you. All right. And we will send out those. And we can post, I have this is another thing I have posted on if you're on Facebook, X, you can go through my pictures. I have all this posted. I put out a lot of data. I don't put out a lot of fluffy, just junk. Lots of my stuff is backed up by data,